Hello YouTube, D-Decken here, and once again, the Pick a Gift campaign is back. And this time, the title, which usually explains why we're having a Pick a Gift campaign, the title isn't celebrating like a new season or some big event that's going on. No, this time the title is A Major Update is Coming Soon. Pick a Gift campaign. But before that, what is the Pick a Gift campaign? Pick a gift campaign. Well, every day when you log in, you get to choose between one of three items. You pick one of those items to keep, and the other two are discarded. You don't get them. The idea behind this event is for you to weigh your options and personally pick the items that you think are best for you. Some are good, some are bad. However, that is for you to decide. And that is, in a nutshell, the Pick a Gift campaign. Now then, in regards to that title, well, a big update. What could that be? If any sort of clickbait or, like, data mining videos are to be believed, that big update is probably going to be the 5Ds. 5Ds world being introduced into Duel Links. Now, if it is, personally, I think that's a little too soon. I mean, like, the GX world, for what it is, it's still lacking a lot of things. Like, we don't have as many characters as, like, the regular Duel Monsters world, and the stage missions only go up to about 30. So why are we suddenly adding a brand new world if the GX world could probably be expanded, like, a little bit more? That's kind of what I think. Like, personally, I wouldn't mind waiting to get 5Ds until, like, the end of the year, or beginning of next year, which is a bit close to the 2-year anniversary mark. I think that would be more fitting, in my opinion. But if it's not 5Ds, if this big update that's coming is not 5Ds, then what is it exactly? Well, here's a theory, a complete shot in the dark, but what if, since, again, the GX world isn't as developed, what if the major update that's coming is, like, an expansion on the stage missions? Like, right now, the stage missions for the Duel Monster world is capped at, like, 60, and the GX world is capped at 30. So, what if this major update is essentially, like, raising the stage missions? And the Duel Monsters world to 70, and the GX world to either like 40 or maybe even 50. Like, that would be adding a lot of content to the game that would keep fans interested for a while, until eventually they roll over into 5Ds. Like, just, I don't know, that's what I'm thinking. What do you think? Do you want 5Ds now, or do you just want it later? Like, because what's kind of scary about 5Ds is that 5Ds will introduce Synchro Summoning into Duel Links. And if anything, when Synchro Summoning hit the actual TCG, it's very splashable. Like, every deck started using it because all you really need is the tuner monster and the extra deck space. Which is a fun conversation for later, but if you have no cards in the extra deck, then you can just put Synchro monsters in there. And if you happen to have one tuner, then suddenly that one tuner is a tech into any Synchro that you can pull off. It's a lot, in other words, it's a lot more versatile and a lot more easy to do than it is Fusion, which Fusion actually requires certain set materials, or or a card or two to be able to activate and use Fusion. Whereas with Synchro Summoning, all you need is just a monster, and just summoning it. So, that's going to be interesting, because there are probably also going to be decks that don't really have any sort of set meaning or anything, that are just essentially Synchro decks, the point of it will just be to Synchro Summoning. That'll be interesting, if to say the least. But that said, usually, let's talk about the actual Pick a Gift campaign and not just the title and speculation. Because, in all honesty, I'm a little disappointed. Like, usually when this event comes back around, I try to make a video talking about it, giving my general first impressions of what I think. And looking at the list and comparing it to the last one, I happen to notice a lot of similarities. Like, it's still the same layout, especially Day 9. Day 9, as you can see, are elemental jewels, which are used for buying cards from the card shop and even upgrading your cards into glossy prismatic variants. Which is all fine. Like, the last couple Pick a Gifts have sort of rotated that around to where in one event you got earth, wind, and maybe like fire, and then another time around you would get like fire, water, and like dark, and then you get like dark light and like fire, or just it would rotate around what the element gems were. These sets of element gems, however, are the exact same as the last Pick a Gift campaign, which makes me think they literally just copied and pasted the last event, thinking everything was fine. And personally, I don't think everything is fine. Like, the idea behind, like, continuously having this event over and over is to try improving upon it every time. But, in my opinion, there's still a few problems with this event, and with this layout specifically, that still aren't addressed. Like, say for example, days 1, 3, and 5, the gem to gold ratio is, well, screwy. Like, day 1 essentially establishes 50 gems to 200,000 gems. Or, let's say, well, like 1 to 100. Or, not 1 to 100, 1 to 1,000 in other words. Which is a fine comparison, personally. But then you go to day 3, and it's half the gold, but not half the gems. It's less than half the gems. And day 5 had the same gold, but more gems. Like, I get the point of it that day 3 and 5, you're meant to buy the gold together, but at the same time, it's just make it 25-25 each. Or change the gold ratios to match what you're doing. Like, it's confusing, and it's like, when you set a standard, you don't break the standard, and it's clearly breaking the standard, which annoys me, really. And also, days 2 and 6. On days 2 and 6 are card days, but I'll talk about that in a sec, but the third item for those days are rare tickets. And honestly, I wish they'd changed this. Like, it doesn't have to be a major change, but the thing about these rare tickets are they've changed the way the card. They changed what you get for whenever you log in, your daily login items, and those daily login items already include rare tickets, and those items are half of what's available for these rare tickets. Like, the only thing special about these rare tickets is that they offer cards in the card shop, which are fine, but they cost less than what you buy than just 200 rare jewels. In other words, 200 rare jewels by themselves are more tempting than the rare ticket itself. So why not, like, change the rare ticket option here into, like, glossy rare tickets? Like, they'll still contain the same cards, like the regular cards and the card from the card shop, but having the option to get a glossy card from the card shop would tempt more people into picking the rare ticket over, let's say, the promo card that's available. That's kind of my opinion, but what essentially do you think? But that said, let's actually talk about the thing that did actually get changed, which pretty much is the poster child for any pick-a-gift campaign, is the cards available. Now, like most pick-a-gift campaigns, the first two card days, which are 2 and 4, try to recycle cards that have come before. Now, the last pick-a-gift campaign only recycled one of the cards and used a sort of a popular recurring card for the third one. This time around, they of course used the last two cards, which were Oath of Mirrors and the Tripper Mercury. The Oath of Mirrors is an interesting tech card, and personally, it's something I would have loved to get 2 of. That said, it was only after I picked it today that I decided to check the EX trader for the Ubel event currently going on, and Mirror of Oaths is also available there as I think a one of. So, since I won it too, I probably could have gotten 2 from the Toy Trader and not here. And I'm kind of wondering if anyone else made that mistake too, but I'm a little disappointed. I would have easily gone with more of the rare jewels, which, once again, are used to buy cards from the card shop. So I'm a little disappointed there. And the other card is the Tripper Mercury. Now, I'm not sure I'll actually take a second copy of Tripper Mercury. Like, the thing about Tripper Mercury is, by itself, it's a 2,000 attack level 8 monster, which, like, water aqua, of course, but if you're talking about, like, a monster that needs 2 tributes to bring out, then a better option, of course, is always going to be, like, Blue Eyes, or, like, Blue Eyes, Barrel Dragon. There's a lot of better option for 2 tributes. The thing about Tripper, though, is when you tribute 3 monsters for him, he makes all your opponent's monsters 0, and he can attack twice. Basically, he does 4,000 if you tribute 3 monsters to bring him out. In other words, he's a bit more of a gimmick to use. Not to mention, with his aqua typing and water attribute, he's a bit more difficult to get out with, and you can't really use a skill unless you're using, like, Draw Sense Water, and he's the only water. Which, that said, it's, like, I'm not sure at that point 2 is necessary, because if you run 2, it can clog easily. And unless you're actually trying to make a Tripper Mercury deck, it's a little bit too much of a gimmick to have 2 of. Having 1 in general is awesome. Like, if you didn't get it before, now's a good chance to get it, but I'm not sure, again, about having 2. But that's just my opinion. The point of Pick a Gift is to relay your opinion. And feel free to let me know your opinion in the comments, of course. But now let's talk about the new cards, which honestly I find very interesting, actually. The first card is Anti-Fusion Device, which I love. One of my big problems right now is I don't really like Masked Hero Anki. Like, personally, I think that card should get semi-limited, but because it's an ultra-rare card that came from the packs, it will not touch the ban list. It's very unlikely that card should hit the ban list, but I personally think it needs to get semi-limited. That said, this card destroys fusion monsters, but more importantly, it doesn't target the fusion monster, which is always a problem, right? Like, when you're trying to deal with an Anki, like, you use enemy controller to switch it to defense mode and then try to run over it. But then all of a sudden, they have a second mass change ready. But now, if you activate Anti-Fusion Device, so long as you don't have a fusion monster, it will destroy their Anki, regardless if they mass change into a second one. Because it just says destroy one face-up fusion monster on the field. It doesn't target Anki, destroy it, no. When this card resolves, it pops the fusion. That said, the only kind of issue I have with this card is, like, just what fusion decks are currently out there. Like, it's a trend for, whenever they start to introduce a new, synchro mechanic, they release counter support for the current summoning method. Like, they did that with Synchro into Exceed, they did that with Exceed into Pendulum, and then Pendulum everything into that Link. It's kind of a trend. So, it makes sense if 5Ds is coming, this is the card they give us. But once again, like, what fusion decks are there? Like, unless fusion decks are going to be a little bit more popular, this card is kind of, I'll use it against Destiny heroes, and that's it. Like, Six Sams and Gladiator Beast, they have fusion monsters. They do. But not many people tend to use the fusion monsters or get a chance to, because using the main deck monsters are often a better result. Now, granted, like, I use, like, Essadar. I make the 25 attack beater and Gladiator Beast all the time, but it's just, once again, like, outside of, like, life cost 0 decks, which they generally clear the back row before they even summon Stein. Like, they use Hate Trunade, or they use Cosmic Cyclone at no cost because of life cost 0. Just so this card is not relevant to life cost 0 decks. So the point is, like what fusion decks is supposed to also help if it's not for Anki? It's like, if you can think of something, let me know. But the other card is also an interesting one, which is the Monarch Awaken. Now, I've talked a lot about Synchro in this video so far, but once again, Synchro is something that you can splash into any deck, so long as you're just running one tuner monster. That's all you need. And then you can make anything that can come up, in other words. But however, this card's major appeal is the fact that you have to have no cards in your extra deck to run it. Which, I knew a friend who would always put Elemental Hero Absolute 0 in his extra deck. Did not matter if he was running a hero deck or not, he just threw it in there because he liked the card. And some people are like that. On Duel Links, that's kind of the same thing. Either people won't play an extra deck because they can't use it, or they'll play cards in the extra deck to either trick their opponent into thinking they're using their extra deck, but they're really not. Like, so it's kind of a catch-22, but it's one of those, it's a gimmick enough card that as we're going into a Synchro era, there will be people who don't want to play Synchro cards, or will want to play a deck involving tribute summoning high attack point beaters, and this card is going to be good to help them. It's not going to be good to go against it, but it's going to be a good tech for those kind of decks. And I really like that. Like, when Triple Marker came out, I praised it because, well, it's a gimmick enough card that probably will see play in, like, situational situations, but it's still a funny card to see. But it kind of makes it, ugh. The big drawback to this card is, of course, it negates the monster's effects, which, if you're going, let's say, against a Diner or something, that will let you attack any other, that'll let you attack any of our the for hire monsters, but so long as you survive the attack. But it makes them unaffected, of course, which is essentially like if you use it on a Jinzo, all the trap cards can then be used, but Jinzo can't negate the trap cards. So but Jinzo is unaffected by trap cards. So it's it's weird. This card is interesting. That's what I'm trying to say. I like it, but it's interesting. With that said, though, the only last thing to talk about is Day 10. Day 10 is, of course, the most difficult choice to pick between all of them, and I'm not even sure which one I'll pick. But in all seriousness, I really wish they do change up Day 10. Day 10 is meant to be like a freebie, but I really wish they change it up. I think they could make Day 10 very interesting. Like instead of like a super rare, like offer like maybe two glossy tickets from like ranked duels. Like that'd be interesting. Or like do something. I don't know. like, what do you think they should do for day 10? And more importantly, do you like this layout? Do you like the cards being offered? I'm always interested in opinions, so let me know in the comments, and I hope you have a wonderful day.